Tell me we're live.
We're live.
Oh, hello. We are live. Welcome. This is part 2. Hello, Hockey World. It is Monday. It's Thursday, Wednesday. It's Wednesday. I'm going to say it's Wednesday.
It's Wednesday.
All right. It's Wednesday, March 30th?
31st.
Okay. Hello, Hockey World. It's Wednesday, March 31st, 2021, and this is part 2 of the show. I'm Eklund. You're watching HockeyBuzzcast on HockeyBuzz.com. That's Mike and Ross. You guys know who we are. You're the chat room. We talk, you listen. That's how it works. That's the way these shows go. You can be a part of it by jumping in the chat room and also talking to us. And you can also support us by going to patreon.com/hockey. And like a couple of you guys did last week, which we really appreciate it. Keeping us alive. I know I just joined the show because I was fighting off the alligators here at Mayaca State Park, Florida. It's my other job, as an alligator wrangler. But here I am, and I want to talk briefly. I know you guys probably got into it, but I want to give you my opinions on Gostisbehere and the crazy thing that happened here. Obviously, clearing waivers. I thought Florida might take a real shot at them because I know they tried to trade for him earlier in the year. But essentially, I think that's not the right fit to replace Ekblad for them. Ekblad. I mean, to replace Ekblad, you have to, you want to get more of a defensive defenseman, obviously. But I think, Gostisbehere, looking at it, he's had 2 really kind of crappy years, last year and this year, pretty bad. But even with those years taken into account, he's the 5th most goals per game defenseman in the NHL since he's entered the league. How is this guy clear waivers at $4.5 million? I think it's kind of crazy. I think someone's missing the boat here. I honestly do.
Well, in spite of that statistic, that was probably the first 3 years of his career. Yeah. And the last 2 years, he's been a dramatic underachiever. It's like he had 17, 7, and 13 goals in his first 3 years.
Right.
19, he had 9. 20, he had 5 in 42 games, and this year is 5 in 25 games. He is not the defenseman that was a Calder Trophy nominee.
No, he's a second. Right. Again, this is what I said on the show. He is a second power play, 30-point defenseman. Right. Nobody wants to pay $4.5 million for 2 more years for that. Yeah. Nobody.
People are paying for it. People are paying more than that for that.
No, not for a guy who can't play defense, because he can't play defense.
All right. Well, I guess we can agree to disagree, but I'm kind of surprised. So what are the thoughts here? I've been chasing
again. He's going to play with the Flyers again.
He's going to play with the Flyers again. The thought was, are they trying to make clear cap space to make a trade though? This did get to a surprise.
I disagree with that, Mike. I do think they're clearing cap space so they can make some sort of trade. Hold on. I think the issue with this is their defense isn't even good enough that they can play without Gostisbehere for a certain amount of time. So he'll be back. And I think the big mistake here, Ek, is when local radio here was saying, Fletcher, was sending a message. There's no message to send. Gostisbehere never left the team. He was practicing with the team. He knows his agent probably called him and said, there's very little chance you're going to get picked up. You're still going to be there. He knew he could be traded for the last 2 years. This did nothing to help the locker room of the team to worry anybody. It's not going to worry anybody.
Right. Nobody in their right mind thought that he was going to be claimed. And the amount of cap space cleared by him being put on waivers, clearing, and staying with the team is 0.
No, right, it's 0.
Only if he gets put. It's only.
That's why I really think they thought he was going to be claimed, because I really do.
No, they could, if they never use him again, they get $1.07 million. So they could go that route. They probably won't.
Only if they move him to the taxi squad,
which they might.
Right? They might, and they're free to. But what I'm saying is, Russ, if he's cleared waivers, if he stays on the roster, they've cleared nothing.
No, I get that, but they may move him onto the taxi squad to save the money, and then he could play again too.
True.
But then the money, then that $1.075 million, as long as he's on the NHL roster, they don't clear that.
Right. Now, let's just say, for argument's sake, LeBron's right and they were trying to get a goalie. They could keep him on the taxi squad for the rest of the year, and then if they were to make the playoffs, put him on the playoff roster. They could do that. It's a long shot.
LeBron. So wait a second. Hold on. So LeBron said they're trying to get a goalie.
Yeah, he mentioned.
Well, let me clarify. On the TSN Insiders last night, the report out there is that with Carter Hart's difficulties and the fact that they've shut him down for at least a week and maybe longer, because to get him straightened out, that the Flyers, who believe that they're still in the playoff race, that they would go out and make a trade for a goaltender, and the name mentioned was Jonathan Bernier. That was the report. Now, do I believe that would be the wise course of action? No, because I think, honestly, if they don't have Carter Hart at his full abilities, and then they're going with Brian Elliott and whoever as the backup, I think they're done. I think they're over with. But that's me. I'm sure that they're not going to accept that as.
They're not going to accept that only because the CEO came out a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, saying they were going to be aggressive at the deadline. They're going to do something to save face.
But they are not. I mean, I'm nothing against. I mean, LeBron has great sources. We all know that LeBron's top quality person. But I don't know. This is one team that I feel like I've got pretty good sources on, and pretty good connections within. And I can tell you that at least as of this morning, they weren't looking at goalies. I mean, I know that they are definitely worried about Carter Hart, but they would rather go with Elliott and Lyon than go out and give up.
Would they go with Elliott and Lyon? They haven't played Lyon yet this year.
I know. That is becoming an issue too, because I definitely don't believe that Fletcher and Vigneault are on the same page about that either. This is like Dave Haxtell with Stolarz. He wouldn't play Stolarz no matter what, and had him on as a backup for 8 games, and he never played. Yeah, I know. But Alex Lyon is better goalie than Stolarz, I think.
He is.
And I think definitely an NHL capable backup. Maybe not in the COVID era where you need to have two, you have to have a 1 and a 1A. But,
right. I think that's the distinction. I think you're right about that.
But I think in regular times he's a backup, and Lyon's definitely an NHL backup. So yeah. I think that it would help.
Spencer Knight did sign. They're saying in the chat room, by the way.
What's happening? Spencer
Knight did sign.
He did sign, right? Okay.
But I'm sure he's going to go to the AHL. I'm sure they're not going to mess with that this year.
Yeah, they're not going to. Especially you have a coach there too that doesn't love playing young goalies. So that's going to be. Right. He's already having issues with who he's playing there in Dredger, from what I've heard. So, and Drager, whatever. Yes, you say Drager, I say Drager. All right. So here you go. Yes, let's do it. So here you go. This is I do believe that the Flyers were high on Ekholm, that they felt like they were going to get Ekholm, and now they're scrambling. I really think that's what's happening. And I think that Florida, Florida's looking for a defenseman, but they're not looking for this kind of defenseman. So I mean, I think the more and more I talk to people, the more and more it sounds like Savard and David Savard is going to be a Florida Panther. I would put that at 80%, and I'm going to be when I adjust the rumor chart. That's what's going to happen. I mean, it makes tons of sense. Savard will go there. Will be happy going there because he knows the situation. He likes the coach there. Apparently, they have some kind of history. I don't know what the Quenneville history is with Savard, but somehow they've known each other from something. And of course, he knows the GM there, which doesn't really matter. But Zito was the kind of guy in Columbus that was around the players a lot, so they liked him. So the situation that's going to play along with this is going to be really interesting, because if you take Savard and Ekholm out of the picture, things get really interesting really fast, right? You get down to Demers, you get down to Manson, as we talked about before. This is and I think that so I really think that the Flyers' main goal now, while it is probably still Savard, probably should turn to be Manson. Manson should be the way they head now.
I agree with you, but I don't know what they're going to get held up for that. But let me ask you this, Ek, and I do agree with the Manson. He would be great for them. Going back to last summer through now, right now, what is how much faith could the Flyers have, fans and even management, in Chuck Fletcher being able to pull off anything of any magnitude? Because he hasn't done much at all in the last year.
I mean, he's been very conservative. He hasn't really made he's obviously afraid of trading prospects. The Flyers have been known to have these great prospects. One of them's got to go at some point. One of them has to go. They've got a lot of them, and whether that's Farabee or Konechny or Frost, at some point, one of those three has to go. We've said it was the same thing we were saying forever in Toronto. Nylander, whatever, with Nylander, with his Kapanen, all these different players. One of them had to go, right? Eventually, it has to happen. and that's really where we sit. And it's amazing how little they want to do that, and yet they are sitting there, and they're not sitting there with any possible help defensively. They've got another game tonight against Buffalo, which they're in this thing. I mean, they're still in this thing if they win tonight.
They're in it, but again, if Tage Thompson makes that shot, are we even saying they're in it anymore? Probably
right?
Not.
And I don't disagree with that.
That's how close it is for them being in it.
That's how much they're on the edge right now.
They're in it, but they're not in it.
The Penguins have a huge lead on them right now. Obviously, the Penguins are 10 points up. But remember when we talked about the Penguins had all those games against the Sabres and the Devils? Well, those games, that's how the Penguins have done this. But now when you look at the rest of the Penguins schedule now, it gets hard again. Like the Penguins have some tough teams again. The Penguins definitely made the most of those games against the Sabres and the Devils.
Yeah, are you expecting them to drop 10 points though? It's a lot of points.
They got a lot of games against the Caps, a lot of games against the Bruins. I'm not, and then quite a few games against the Flyers still actually. So everything's still with the great thing about the season when you play as many games, everything's still in your own control, for the most part. So that's me.
I will say this, and then Ek could answer. If this were real, if this were a real thing, Florida would be moronic to make this trade. Anton Lundell will be a star in this league on his own. I like Matt Dumba. You know how much I like Matt Dumba. I wouldn't make that trade with a 10-foot pole.
Yeah, I wouldn't either.
Well, you got to remember, Dumba is under contract long term, and that's yes, they have the money that they can put on LTR with Ekblad, sure. But they can't. But then next year they would have to deal with the fact that you've got Dumba making, I think, $6.5 million, and then Ekblad coming back making $7.5 million. Unless you're prepared to get rid of somebody to clear the space to open up for Dumba. Lundell is making entry level right now.
And you would have Rossi and Lundell on the Minnesota Wild.
With Kaprizov.
Like they might get to the conference finals with those guys, even as youngsters.
Yeah. He's making $6 million for 2 more years. So no, it's not. No, I do. No,
I will say this. I think that's somebody on Florida's radar. I don't think that's the player that they would move for.
Right. It could be, but
I actually think, and Russ and I talked about this before the show. I actually think that might be somebody on Philadelphia's radar, but after
the season. Yeah.
There's no question that Dumba is on the Flyers' radar too. Fletcher's talked about it to people. I've talked about it to people.
Yeah. But all right. So here's another thing.
It wasn't after the season thing. The question is, could that be accelerated because of what's happened? Possibly.
Okay. I mean, maybe. But let me ask you this. So we go back to Fletcher's press conference, right, which was underwhelming. The whole world admitted that.
Yeah.
You get back to that press conference, and the message that I really got was, if we're out of it, I'm trading guys for draft picks, so enjoy this draft because we're going to have a lot of picks in it. And the other is, I'm looking at these long-term trades. But, again, does Comcast really want to push away this season when they spent a lot of money on upgrades? They probably were hoping they could get some playoff revenue. And now that won't happen on the hope that there are some trades made over the summer so they can get to the playoffs. Like, you get what I'm saying? There's a lot of hope being sold here.
Yeah. Well, the playoff revenue thing is really interesting this summer because of the fact that, who knows? We're still unsure. There's still a lot of belief that the playoffs, we could be at 50% capacity now, I've heard.
Right.
If that's the case, then, playoff revenue is
baseball just got pushed up. Baseball now, I think, is at like 30%, and they're outdoor.
They're outdoors. Yeah, that's the big thing, right? So, I mean, to me, that's like that's a pretty good number. If they get to 50%, then you're talking about, okay, that's definitely some significant revenue, but not like Comcast significant revenue.
Right.
So to me,
it's still revenue. At the end of the day, they would rather have revenue than not have revenue.
Yes. And there's that give and take of like, okay, we're good. They know there's going to be tickets to sell next year. There's a belief that if people are vaccinated and we're things are back to normal, there'll be a boom on tickets. I've heard there are people starting to say that people are going to be excited to go out. They're going to go in and do things if everybody starts feeling safe again. So you want to, if you have a good playoff run, remember the playoffs, run a little bit later than usual this year. So that your time to sell tickets for next year is shorter. So there's a little bit of a feeling like, get a good playoff run in, that will definitely help your ticket sales next year, even if it doesn't this year.
That's another great point. If the Flyers don't make the playoffs here, they're not going to have a good run early of tickets next year. You're not.
No, it's going to be way harder to sell tickets for them. And for everybody. So, I mean, making the playoffs, a team like Florida, that loses money by making the playoffs because they have, unless they have like 75% capacity or something like that.
Right.
That's tough because of the way they rent the building. So it's like there's different situations with that. But at the same time, you want to be able to sell tickets next year. The playoffs this year are going to make a big difference with that.
This was we mentioned this earlier as well. The problem here about like a Gostisbehere deal going to Florida and Strawman going back to the Flyers is Strawman might be washed up. They waived him. He's slower. He's not the defenseman that played with Victor Hedman a few years ago. So they and he's got a year less than Gostisbehere. And you could say, okay, well, Florida, they want Gostisbehere because he's from Florida. If they wanted him, they would have claimed him. They would have.
No, not necessarily.
Emily Kaplan just came out and said she spoke to a handful of NHL people, and they're still saying nobody wants to take on money right now.
Yeah, no one wants to take on money without giving up money. So I think the person who wrote in there is right. That it's a way better chance that they take Gostisbehere if the Flyers take Strawman. Right. But there's no one's going to.
That's still a losing thing for you might lose a year of term, but you're getting a even less effective defenseman than the one you're. Like the Flyers can't afford to get Strawman and never use them. They don't have that kind of depth right now.
I know. They don't. They really don't. I agree with you.
Now, okay. Cameron says this is from Darren Drager on Leafs Lunch. Possibility of Taylor Hall going to the Islanders. Yeah. No, really?
I mean, Andrew Gross told us that Saturday morning.
Oh my God.
And he's the Islanders' best reporter. So
right. He was a little skeptical about the fit.
Yeah. Yes, he was. And we were too.
But the thing is, okay, you could say, well, Hall played with Eberle in Edmonton, so that could be a good fit there. But he was skeptical in terms of Hall and how he's played in Buffalo and how he would fit in a Barry Trotz system and whether that would work or not. Now, I don't know. I mean, I don't think
Taylor Hall's plug and play anymore. I will go out on a limb and say that.
I think the Islanders.
Yeah, I agree with you.
I think the Islanders have to be a little bit desperate because I will stick with my statement and I back it completely that if they don't add scoring, they will not get out of that division.
I will say this: I just wrote an article this morning for GTS's collectibles website, right for and I did it on Rookie of the Month. And the Rookie of the Month, I know everybody's on the Jason Robertson train, and he's almost a point a game. I still made Sorokin the Rookie of the Month because if you remember, the Islanders weren't in second place at the time he started winning. And Varlamov is 5-4 this month. He's 6-1. Yeah. And actually, he was 8-0-0, and that's only the third Islander goalie, not even rookie goalie, that's ever done that in the history of the franchise. So he has had a hell of a month.
But the year is Kaprizov.
Right, of the year. We're just talking about the month, Mike.
Right. Kaprizov, so far as right now, Kaprizov, Sorokin still got time to go here. We'll see what happens.
Yeah. No, there is still time to go because if there's an injury.
Still holding out. I mean,
Trotz was smart. You know what he did? He made sure in this moment when Varlamov wasn't playing well, let's see what I've got with Sorokin in a compressed schedule situation, and he passed with flying colors.
He really did. And when you just watching him play, you're starting to see the magic that guy has. It's just
he was doing things Carter Hart wasn't doing when we saw them match up.
He's like,
and it's unfair to Carter Hart to say,
Yeah, the closest thing I can say with Sorokin is he's a bigger Dominic Hasek is what he looks like to me. Like he's like Hasek but bigger. He's not as like crazy as Hasek was, but
no, he's not as crazy.
He has some similarities.
He's really got a great glove hand. When guys were shooting up high, he was catching them all. He has a massive glove, though. It's like
I would say he's got of any goalie I've seen in a very long time, the best waffle too. Like I think this glove and waffle hand are ridiculous. Like
it's just ridiculous.
Up high, beating him up high is really hard. He's just really he's just solid in general.
Well, okay,
that's gonna be dangerous.
Here may be a shot across the bow of the Nashville Predators' burgeoning playoff hopes.
Mm-hmm.
Forsberg is out week to week with an upper body injury. That's their
they're still not going to trade just because of that, though.
right.
That's like the returning of the Swallows. That's like every year.
Right.
This time of year, Forsberg gets out week to week. Like it's like, I mean that team.
We didn't talk about Florida. Duclair went shoulder first into the wall. He could be out now too.
Yeah, he could be out a while too. I know. But it sounds like Huberdeau and Barkov are coming back soon. So
okay.
I mean, if they get those two guys back,
I actually think Barkov was in the game last night. But I'll double check that.
Yeah,
but
it might have been too.
Well, I still believe that it's a bridge too far for them to be able to adequately replace Ekblad to the point that they're now Barkov was not in the lineup. Okay, so somebody who's the acting
very close though. He's very close. He's very close to that. Yeah, I think he's very close to being back. So. I mean, it is. It's impossible. You can't replace Ekblad, so they're not going to replace Ekblad. So they got to figure out the best thing they can do. As far as the Islanders and Taylor Hall goes, though, yeah, I mean that's an obvious spot for him to go. I wouldn't count out Edmonton with him though. I keep hearing Edmonton. I don't know how they're going to do it. I don't know how they're going to make the money work, but I'm wondering if that's possible. Still, I'm wondering if it's possible. My family's returned.
Possible. I just looked up my notes on Jan Jenik for Julian. Here's what my report is on him. In the World Juniors, he was pretty good. He had a couple points in 3 games, but he also was always around the puck. He was there for rebounds, deflections, and if there were a crowd of players, he would come out with the puck. So he's definitely a guy that has talent, and I don't know what he's doing this year. I haven't really tracked him this year, but he does have talent. So I'll say that.
Yeah, I've heard good things about him. I don't know much about him though for there. So tonight, there's some good games tonight, obviously.
It's a week to 10 days on Duclair.
Week 10 days on 10 days Duclair. Okay, all right, interesting.
Well, obviously the big game for the Flyers is in Buffalo against the Sabres. But the first place in the North will be on the line tonight. Yeah. Leafs and Winnipeg. Jack Campbell will be playing for the Leafs in spite of tweaking his knee or left leg again on Saturday. So, I mean, Sheldon Keefe did not indicate any kind of update on Frederik Andersen. Right. So right now everything is sort of in limbo when it comes to the Leafs goaltending. I think we'll find out by the middle of the week what's exactly going on with Andersen, and at that point, if Andersen is scheduled to be out longer, then the Leafs might have to go looking for a goaltender. Yeah,
that's going to be it's going to be huge for them. I mean, obviously, and the North is so wide open. I mean, we've got 3 teams now battling for it, and they're all beating up on each other. Like Toronto beats Edmonton, Edmonton beats Toronto, Winnipeg beats Edmonton.
Yeah, but that goon Connor McDavid, he should have been suspended for that elbow last night.
He should have been.
No, he should have. There's no question about it. The NHL won't do that though. It's like unfortunately, that is definitely something that needs to be looked at, but it just hasn't been.
And we'll answer Cam. With Edmonton's new baseball team, Kelly Stinnett was a decent catcher for the Mets. He actually was pretty good offensively, so I wish him luck.
Absolutely.
All right.
You don't even know,
guys. Quick, thanks for the half show, and thanks for you guys for the first half show. Be back tomorrow with a full show, and enjoy the game tonight. Remember, folks, without the buzz, it is just hockey. We will talk to you tomorrow.